Hello, my name is Linda Monahan, and I'm really pleased to be able to read to you this afternoon an excerpt from my poetry manuscript, The Door at the End of Everything. I'm very grateful to the Canada Council for the Arts for this opportunity to share an online reading. I'm going to be doing a series of three sets of poems from the manuscript, 10-minute readings, I think, at a time. The Door at the End of Everything deals largely with mental health. I worked as writer on the wards for a couple of years at the Victoria Hospital here in Prince Albert. As well, I facilitate a Writing for Your Life group with the Canadian Mental Health Association. And those experiences, as well as my own personal experience, have very much informed this manuscript. My hope is that the poems in The Door at the End of Everything bring some awareness to mental health and also perhaps help to lose some of the stigma that surrounds those living with mental health issues. So the first poems that I'm going to share with you are personal poems. This is a quote from a poem by Judith Krause, an epigram from her poem, A History of Shirts. And it says, 30 years of your brother's life hanging in a cedar-lined closet under the back stairs. So closet space. Brother, I don't go looking anymore in the dark closets of memory. Don't go digging through those musty boxes for the moth-eaten remains of all the old sad stories. I'll never rid myself of those memories, won't drop them off at the Salvation Army back door, leave them there with all the things people don't want anymore, the chipped cups and broken kitchen clocks. I've stored them away in the back reaches of my heart where they aren't anymore, taking up all the space they once did. Those years when the loss of you would not let go, and I refused to put anything of you away. This next poem is for my sister, and it's titled, When It Comes That Easy. Every day, my sister opens her eyes to joy, finds it in the wild asters at the road's edge or the filigreed wings of dragonflies. Every day she opens her eyes, and every day joy is awake and waiting for her. I want a day when it comes that easy, when all my busy work and worries slip from me like water rivering from my skin, and all the appointments and meetings wash to puddles at my cool bare feet. When joy is to look up to the beating of the stars, when a simple walk down a country road is all I need, when the white lace of baby's breath in ditches is enough. This next poem is titled, Poor Mary. Dad's girlfriend's name was Mary. Poor Mary, people called her. Rumors her husband had hung himself in the basement of the ramshackle old house she lived in on River Street, the kitchen filled to overflowing with soggy cardboard boxes of rotting apples and peaches she had picked up for 50% off at Safeway, fruit flies flitting around our heads like miniature Tinkerbells. Dad laid out on Mary's scruffy sofa, the living room rife with the eye-watering smell of the heat liniment he used for his sciatica. He hadn't shaved or bothered to comb his hair in days. My sister and I maneuvered our way around the Electrolux vacuum cleaner that lay like a tired dog smack in the middle of the crumb-covered carpet, wending our way past a set-up ironing board mounted with laundry that appeared to be a permanent fixture next to the TV. Mary, in a bathrobe, wanting to know what we wanted, which was nothing more than to see how Dad was doing. I can't remember anything my sister or I said, or if Dad said anything at all. 5 minutes and we had what we came for, climbed back over the Electrolux, waved away the fruit flies, and were gone. This poem is titled Salt for David. There is no adequate word for how it felt the day you died. No adequate way to say how I knew. No answers to any of the questions I had, or why poems spilled out of me in a great sweep of guilt and sorrowing. No name for the glittering white fury I heaped on our father, or for the loss I felt and still feel over you, little brother, my friend and protector. How to put words to my missing you, real as the salt I poured and poured into the open wound of your suicide, only now beginning at last to heal. I had mentioned that I facilitate a Writing for Your Life group for mental health, and the people that I write with, that I've worked with and come to know and love, matter very much to me, and I try to honor them and their lives in my poetry. And we took a trip to Saskatoon one day to meet with another Writing for Your Life group for the afternoon, and this poem is titled The Song. Maybe because we're driving on our way to Saskatoon. Maybe because we're in the car together for the next 2 hours and they want to fill the space between us, they begin to speak their stories. Holly tells me about her time in North Battleford, the loony bin, she calls it, electric shock treatments that left her with holes in her memory. She says she wrote a song once, but she no longer remembers the words. And Randy speaks of living on the streets of Calgary, doing drugs in 40 below back alleys, sleeping in shelters or under stairwells, digging for food in restaurant dumpsters. Sometimes, he says, life was like a wad of old chewing gum. I listen quietly because that is what they need me to do, to bear witness to what they are telling me of suffering. The trip takes longer because they want to stop at Tim's for coffee or for a smoke, standing shivering in thin jackets at the shoulder of the road. Sometimes, Holly says, taking in a deep drag, a few words will come back to me. Yeah, Randy says, one day you'll remember the song. Christmas at the Drop-In Center. My husband has served as Santa for the Drop-In Center's Christmas party, and he wears a faded old pink Santa suit. So, Christmas at the Drop-In Center. Like a favorite song you sing over and over, the music moving inside you, Dolly Parton on the old stereo belting out, fine and dandy, Lord, it's like a hard candy Christmas. No fancy gifts, no giant decorated tree, a community kitchen lunch, and a man in a faded pink Santa suit handing out cheap chocolates to a raggedy bunch of unpampered people. I'm barely getting through tomorrow, but still I won't let sorrow bring me down. And joy in the shabby room, filling every corner with the song I cannot nor ever want to forget. This poem is called Randy's Coat. He got a new coat every year. Didn't know who gave it, but every winter there it was, warm, fleece-lined. Says it was the most amazing fine thing anyone had ever given him, this gift of warmth to wrap himself in. When he was wandering 40 below Calgary alleys, digging for cigarette butts in garbage cans or bumming quarters in the big boy parking lot. And you know, he said, back then those coats were the closest damn thing I had to anything I'd call a home. So Far is a poem that I wrote for one of the women that I've gotten to know at the Drop-In Center, and this is a story that she told me. So far. She's been shopping, those sweet little onesies, a soft yellow blanket the color of buttercups. For months now, she has been anticipating the birth, her first grandchild, hope like the yellow blanket, a padded softness of a thing. She's come so far, taking her meds, feeling better than she has for years. Now this little one she could hardly wait to hold, to touch the dimples in his little knees, kiss those apple cheeks. She'll be the best grandma ever. When her son finally calls, he says, Mom, forget it. We will never be leaving our baby alone with you. The last poem that I'd like to share in this segment of The Door at the End of Everything is a poem titled Just Something to Remember. Sharing a bag of store-bought cookies on a winter Wednesday morning with a handful of guys at the drop-in center isn't a poem. Even though they dig into those cookies like it was their last meal, even though there is a ritual to it, Ian sitting next to me, always the one to open the Peak Freens or Oreos. Even though this place is the very heart of life to every one of them, and it's home in the sense that here they can grab a cup of coffee or a nap, and it's where they feel cared for when life is just too difficult and they've lost who it is they're supposed to be. This couldn't be poetry, even though they caught the bus to be here on this -40 morning, stamping their frozen feet in run-down running shoes that do nothing to keep out the cold. Poetry? No. Just something to remember when you feel life isn't adding up, the way love can sometimes exactly equal a bag of store-bought cookies shared among friends. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to these poems from The Door at the End of Everything. Again, thank you to Canada Council for this wonderful opportunity, and I hope that you'll join me for the next installment of readings from The Door at the End of Everything. Please stay well and stay safe.